Nishyamya deha suravarya nengate Gurgurar deha kritascha ketanam. Ladies? Katam sutaya piturgeha kautukam Nishyamya deha suravarya nengate Anahuta piyabhiyanti sauridam Bhartur guror deha kritascha ketanam. Katam sutaya piturgeha kautukam Nishyamya deha suravarya ningate Anahuta piyabhiyanti sauridam Bhartur guror deha kritascha ketanam. Katam, how, sutayaha, of a daughter, pitre, geha, kautukam, the festival in the house of her father, nishamya, hearing, deha, the body, Suravarya, O best of the demigods, not, ingate, disturbed, anahutaha, without being called, api, even, abhiyanti, goes, suhridam, a friend, Bhartahu, of the husband, Guruho, of the spiritual master, Dehakritaha, of the father, Cha, and Ketanam, the house. Katam sutayaha piturigeha kautakam, nishamya deha suravarya ningate. Anahuta api abhiyanti sauhridam bhartur goro deha kritascha ketanam. Translation. O best of the demigods. Oh, in South America, you do it that way first. Okay. Here we do it, whole thing first. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may consider that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. Okay. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. Okay? Tame prasididam amartya vanchitam. What does vanchitam mean? Desire. Kartum bhavam karunika bhatarhati. Tvayatmano hrideham abhadra chakshusha nirupita manugrihana yachita. O immortal Shiva, please be kind towards me and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half of your body. Therefore, please show kindness towards me and accept my request. Shri Rishi Uvacha. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailas, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly, although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of universal affairs. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. When Lord Shiva heard from his wife about Daksha, the psychological effect was that he immediately remembered the strong words spoken against him in the assembly of the guardians of the universe. And remembering those words, he was sorry at heart, although to please his wife he smiled. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a liberated person is always in mental equilibrium in both distress and the happiness of this material world. Therefore, the question may now be raised why a liberated personality like Lord Shiva was so unhappy because of the words of Daksha. Yeah? You want to know the answer? Because he's not really liberated. No, okay. The answer is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Okay. Lord Shiva is Atmarama, or situated in complete self-realization. But because he is the incarnation in charge of the material mode of ignorance, tamagun, he is sometimes affected by the pleasure and pain of the material world. Okay, so probably we'll go on and I'll explain this more. It's a subtle thing about how Krishna relates to this world. Prabhupada says that the Virat Rup is the objective material incarnation of Krishna. Prabhupada says, of course, Krishna never incarnates as a material object. So the Virat Rupa is kind of like real and not real. Yeah. So, and Lord Shiva is the functional material body of Krishna, right? Yeah. Krishna has to relate to this world, so he doesn't do it himself. He does it through Shiva and Parvati and Durga. So how does that work? How can we relate to Krishna? The answer is given by Vishwanath Chakravarti. Okay, yeah. The difference between the pleasure and pain in this material world and that of the spiritual world is that in the spiritual world, the effect is qualitatively absolute. Yeah. Therefore, one may feel sorry in the absolute world, but the manifestation of so-called pain is always full of bliss. Yeah. For instance, once Lord Krishna in his childhood was chastised by his mother, okay, Yashoda, and the Lord cried, but although he was shedding tears from his eyes, this is not to be considered a reaction of the mode of ignorance. For the incident was full of transcendental pleasure. Yeah. When Krishna was playing in so many ways, sometimes it appeared that he caused distress to the gopis. But actually such dealings were full of transcendental bliss. That is the difference between the material and spiritual worlds. The spiritual world, where everything is pure, is pervertedly reflected in this material world. Since everything in the spiritual world is absolute, in the spiritual varieties of apparent pleasure and pain, there is no perception other than eternal bliss. Whereas in the material world, because everything is contaminated by the modes of material nature, there are feelings of pleasure and pain. Therefore, Lord Shiva, although a fully self-realized person, was in charge of the material mode of ignorance. He felt sorrow. Okay. So when we feel that happiness and distress materially is forced upon us, we don't want it. Yeah, and we don't even the happiness is forced upon us. Yeah. Prabhupada says in material life we always want to be carried away by the waves of sense gratification. You want to eat one ice cream cone that will never end. And the pleasure will just like that one ice cream cone, once you take it, you'll never have to take another or something like that. Or get so intoxicated that we just blow our brains out forever. It's people drinking and stuff, just trying to annihilate their consciousness. You know? But it doesn't work. You know? And so it's forced upon us. But it's there. And Lord Shiva is experiencing this out of mercy. He's associating how is Krishna going to understand these things? How is Krishna going to help us? Through Lord Shiva. But Lord Shiva doesn't he accepts it, right? Yeah. and doesn't become influenced by it, ultimately. The Lord incarnated as Varaha, right? Varaha is a giant peacock, giraffe, gopher, kangaroo, hog, yeah. And if you ever see the hogs in Vrindavan, they're really stylish. First you got this kind of pompadour hair thing, you know. They got these kind of high-heel shoes and stuff on like that. It's like somebody really, in the mode of ignorance, is going out to eat crabs and fish and snails and stuff, and you know, with this questionable female associates, and clothes aren't quite clean, but he really thinks he's. So Lord Varaha thought he really looked really good, you know. There's a famous picture called the boar hunt. It's maybe several hundred years old. And some boar was eating corn in people's fields in England or something. So they went out with the dogs to attack him. And the picture shows about 5 guys with spears after the boar there, and 4 or 5 dogs. You know, one dog's biting in his legs, and some other another dog's lying there with his stomach ripped open. These tusks, you can take a piece of paper and just go whoosh on them, razor sharp. You know, these guys are dangerous. Yeah, boars. So anyway, you know, Lord Varaha was thinking, you know, look at the earth, there I